In requirements for digital journalism at Georgian University, I am Melanie Coleman, and the topic of this presentation is news channels, programs, and streams. Chapter 4 of Broadcast Journalism, Techniques of Radio and Television News. Over 25 years ago, in an earlier edition of this book, the ultimate news program was 24-hour news on satellite and cable television. In the 21st century, however, that is not the case. So let's take a look at the evolution of 24-hour news broadcasts. Mexico is credited with producing the first 24-hour news program on air in 1961. Later, it was brought to America when Chicago radio hosts adopted and adapted the format. Years later, satellite and cable TV hopped on the bandwagon in 1980 with Ted Turner's cable news network, most commonly known as CNN. This 24-hour programming made a name for itself, covering the Tiananmen Square massacre and the Gulf War. Soon after, similar news channels also jumped on the bandwagon. But nowadays, these news channels seem to be on a decline as content can be easily consumed online and through phones by viewers. CNN was also the first to complete live stream of 24-hour news online and on mobile in 2011. This was definitely a game changer. 24-hour news format has developed a number of distinct styles over the years. One of the most common styles is the magazine approach, which presents a variety of programs and personalities throughout the day. ESPN is a great example of this approach, with different hosts and programs constantly running for 24-hour sports-related news. Another format is the news cycle, which repeats and updates constantly. These programs usually last 30 minutes to an hour. An example of this could be News at Midday.
This is BBC News. Let's have a look at the latest headlines. And the British swimmer Adam Peaty has broken his own world record to win the men's 100-metre breaststroke, claiming the first gold medal for his country in the Rio Olympics. He's the first male Briton to win a swimming Olympic gold since 1988, by the way. After Turkey's failed coup, the family of conscripts killed in the fighting have told the BBC that their sons didn't know what was happening. Search and rescue teams have been deployed in Mexico. After landslides and floods wrecked towns and villages, emergency services say at least 30 people have been killed. Japan's emperor will broadcast a rare video message to the public later. There's speculation he wants to step down in the coming years. Palace officials say the recorded statement will convey his thoughts about his official duties. Those are the latest headlines from BBC World News.
The clip just shown was an example of the bulletin technique, a way of presenting several key news stories in a short snap and summaries. These presentations usually consist of an anchor talking, with short clips of each story being shown. Another presentation technique includes the news program, which aimed to provide a broad view of the day's news. These would be more in-depth versions of stories and news that may have been announced in a bulletin. The documentary technique goes into depth on one feature issue. A good example of this is 60 Minutes, where they focus on one important story. The verite technique tries to get as close to the truth as possible, eliminating reporters and their influence if possible. So who does what exactly? On the input side, stories come from news agencies with reporters from international news services and materials from freelancers. Output is concerned with producing these programs from materials gathered. Editors and producers choose the items that go into these programs. So, is rolling on-air 24 news really the future? Is the arrival of a man in a suit and the speculation and analysis of what he is saying really news? Where do we go from here? The future is indeed convergence. Video and audio on demand. The online presence of news gives consumers the in-depth they have always been looking for while saving them time. Social media is on the verge of becoming the next evolution in the 24-hour news chain. Who knows? The next edition of this book can discuss a whole new platform we haven't even thought of yet. Thank you for your time.